Hi skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
I'm Bob, how's it going?
We're back with what's going to be the narrowest of all of our comparison videos. You guys have been asking for this one. We did a frontside comparison last year too. That had like half as many skis as we're going to look at today. So continuing with the theme, we've got 18 skis up here. Bob and I were just kind of chatting about it before we pressed record. And we kind of think we'll move a little bit quicker through these skis.
Because they're fast.
Yeah, good one. These skis are fast. And we mentioned before, kind of as we were going up in width, we saw more variety in kind of the intended use of those skis. A lot of these skis kind of fall under the same umbrella in terms of intended use. Yeah. And I would say the differences between them, especially on this side of the wall, are more subtle than what we saw in some of those other comparisons. But still really cool, and I think there's a lot of good stuff to talk about here, so we'll get right into it. And we're starting with this Rossignol Hero Athlete GS. So you will quickly notice the trend here. We're going to go from narrowest to widest, and kind of with that, we're moving from skis that are very similar to race skis to skis that are less similar to race skis overall. This is 100% a race ski. This is technically a junior race ski, but it's a 182 GS ski with a 25 meter turn radius. Yeah. That is the biggest turn radius we're going to look at on this wall. It's also the narrowest ski at 65 underfoot, and you get a true race plate. Yeah. So as we go through these skis, a lot of them kind of fall into the race category, or at least close to the race category. If you're actually looking for a race ski, this is what you want to go for. Yeah. And on skiessentials.com, we have a lot of race skis. And, we could go the other direction from this ski into like 188 centimeter, 30 meter GS skis. We've got a lot of those.
Right, like FIS and World Cup.
Exactly. Yeah, if you want to feel what a ski racer is feeling, if you want the equipment that you're watching people use on TV, get a ski like this. Yeah. Just remember that they are going to be the most demanding, the least forgiving, the least versatile. Yeah. This is a tool for a specific job, and that job is ski racing. Right. Just a quick touch on Rossignol's construction and technology. This uses line control technology. Bob, you've talked about this a lot. Yep. It's counter-flexing properties. Right. It really does a good job of keeping the ski kind of glued to the snow surface, which is what you want in something like this. So less skipping, less...
No vibrations.
Exactly.
That's what they're all trying to do, is make it as damp as possible.
Exactly. And vibrations, not only do they kind of like mess with your confidence, they're also taking away from edge grip. Right. So anytime this tip bounces off the snow, you're losing a little bit of edge grip. So that line control technology, great name for it, helps keep you on your line.
On your line, yep.
So to start off, I thought this was a good one. I bet this is something that you didn't expect us to include. But this is a full-on race ski, and don't let the junior title kind of steer you away from it. Yeah. Because I think, I would love to own a ski like this.
Right, and I think they do that just because of the requirements of, whatever races you're participating in have, a junior ski has a different requirement than an adult ski.
Exactly.
So, for citizens like us, makes more sense to be on something like that with the shorter turn radius as opposed to the 30 or 35 that whatever FIS requires.
And 25 is still big.
It's still big, yeah.
And that's still going to make big turns, bigger than most people probably want. Right. But a cool option.
And the narrower underfoot, it's just more twitchy. I think of it like a hockey skate. So the narrower you go, the more edge grip you're going to have and torsional stiffness. So that's why that's at that end of the wall. Yep. And it doesn't get too much different from here. Now we're moving into more of the citizens race ski. So, you'll hear us throw around the term beer league a lot, or a citizens race, even like a masters racer. Right. They have their own set of requirements, I know, but, this is more for that skier, used to race, still races, still race in beer league, Same race construction. So this is the Nordica GSR. Is this the Elite?
That is the GSR Elite.
GSR Elite. I love the name. You know, thing looks pretty mean too. And, you know, same thing. It's 68 underfoot and just will hold an edge on pretty much anything that you can throw at it. 16.5 meters here at the 180. So this is that example of as you're moving from, you know, a required radius into what they can make, you know, shorter turns and stuff like that you don't have to, you know, have a requirement for a race. This is where you're at.
You still get 2 sheets of metal in that ski, but it's softer flexing than this thing. I was flexing things before we started, and that does have a little bit of a more natural flex.
A little bit of a give to it, but still, you know, even just a little bit wider in the shovel and the tail, you know, still keeping that very race shape underfoot. That's gonna, you know, that wider shovel and tail make that turn radius shorter, but still just a really stiff, burly ski.
Yeah.
And that thing's just gonna hold on pretty much anything. You know, we have the bindings on a lot of these skis. Most of the, you know, this is like a Marker Excel version of the binding. You get a 14 on this. And, you know, you'll see some similarities. We'll kind of point out when the bindings are a little bit different. But, you know, for the most part, you're getting a race-like binding on the ski. These are on a track versus that Rossi race ski with the drill plate. So, you know, that's just another difference. And that's the Nordica GSR Elite.
Yeah, super fun. Another one that I'd like to own.
You say that about a lot of things.
I'm going to say that about everything, probably. I do own a 30-meter 188 Nordica ski, which I have never skied.
Nor should you.
But we're looking to change that this year. So this is kind of Blizzard's version of exactly what we just looked at. These are kind of, this is the WRC, the Firebird WRC, but these, the second through fourth ski that we're looking at are all very similar in the sense that they're designed to provide giant slalom-esque performance, we'll say. So they have all the same construction and technology that you see in the World Cup race skis. 2 sheets of metal in here with carbon armor, carbon spine. Blizzard, the use of carbon in these skis is actually really cool. So you get all that same performance, but you get a more user-friendly turn radius and shorter length options. And, you know, we're going to throw around terms like user-friendliness and forgiveness as we go through these skis. You got to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. Maybe until we get to some of the skis over there. But if I say the word forgiving about any of these skis, it's not forgiving like we would describe like a soft flexing twin tip. They're forgiving like compared to a FIS World Cup ski. So that's, I just wanted to make that differentiation. But yeah, Firebird WRC, another one that's great in a beer league race. I know a ton of people like Steve, the manager of our brick and mortar shop. He kind of swears by this ski for beer league racing. Pretty similar turn radius. This is a 17.5 meter turn radius in the 175 length. So that to me is like pretty perfect if you're looking for a GS ski as a consumer, you know, as just an average, not a World Cup skier. I like the Firebird skis. I think the thing that sets them apart a little bit is that carbon. So they have a little bit more springy responsiveness to them. Very similar to how we were talking about line control technology in the Rossi ski. There's actually vertically laminated carbon in this ski that gives it a lot of responsiveness, and I just find them very rewarding. They come across the fall line very nicely, and basically identical binding system to what we just saw, which is not terribly surprising because Nordica and Blizzard kind of fall under the same parent company, so to speak.
I mean, these
or
are
at least under the similar category.
I mean, they're like first cousins. Close first cousins.
Exactly. So pretty darn cool to see. You know, we see this binding system on a lot of skis throughout this, and it works really, really well. It's a great binding. I trust this binding a lot. This XL 14 especially is very, very good.
And the Volkl, kind of that second cousin, I would say, to these other 2 skis that we just talked about. This is a Racetiger GS. You know, again, basically a twin construction-wise to their World Cup race ski, just in that slightly wider and, you know, shorter turn radius. One of the big things from Volkl here is their use of the UVO 3D. So this is another way that Volkl will dampen vibrations. This object like kind of moves around to counteract the vibrations that the ski creates. So when you're flexing, again, kind of similar to that line control, the movement of this is supposed to redistribute the mass along the front of the ski and keep it quieter. So that's Volkl's thing here, making it stick out. You also get a slightly different of a binding setup here. Use that, I forget the term you used for the.
These are recoil plates.
Recoil plates.
Yeah, that's the R motion.
This is the R motion, yeah. And this works on a worm screw. So you're actually screwing the binding down a worm screw onto the plate versus the recoil, you said?
Yep, that's the recoil power plate, which we're going to see 3 more times.
Yep, and we'll see the R motion on the Volkl skis as we go down too. So a little bit of a different system, but same toe and heel piece overall. You know, Volkl reputation for race skis and edge grip kind of speaks for itself. You know, that German engineering and quality for those race skis is, you know, it's up there. You know, you see these things all over the place. So, you know, similar build and shape. We're looking at a 18.3 meter at the 175. So kind of falling in between a little bit, the Blizzard and Nordica.
Yeah.
But you also have to take the length into account for these, so it does change per length. But yep, just another cousin of that, you know, on-trail racing family, perfect for beer league, perfect for early morning ripping runs. And
you know, there's so many similarities between these 3 skis, and you know, we were talking about this kind of before we started, but like each one has their own slightly different thing.
Yeah.
Like this uses carbon bridge, this uses carbon armor and carbon spine, this uses 3D glass, so the fiberglass kind of like goes in 3-dimensional ways through the ski, and then they've got UVO.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of different ingredients to these 3 recipes. Ultimately, they kind of all accomplish the same thing,
right.
But they do feel different. I think the Volkl's very smooth.
I've gotten a feeling that the Blizzards feel lighter, you know, and I think it's that additional carbon that, you know, when we're asked to compare different, you know, the Blizzard to the Nordica, I'm like, you know, the Blizzard just feels lighter. You know, I don't have a weight on them, but, you know, that was my impression.
Yeah, I always say there's like a little bit of attitude to these skis.
Yeah.
And like I think I said it in the written portion of this comparison. I don't know if it's the orange color or like the content they put out with Marcus Kasten, like ripping turns on these things, like through choppy snow and stuff like that. But there's a little bit of attitude, like counterculture attitude to these Firebirds, which I think is cool. Next ski is the Stockli Laser SC. Fantastic ski, and to me that split right there from the I don't even know what I'm saying. From the Racetiger into the Laser SC, that's where we're starting to get into slightly more versatile skis.
Yeah.
So like if you look in Stockli's catalog, they call this a sport carving ski instead of a race ski.
Right.
And I think that's a good way to think about it. But that said, like all 5 of these next skis that we're going to look at still would be perfectly reasonable choices for beer league racing, anything like that. I use one of these skis personally for beer league racing, and I will vouch for its performance or any of these 5 skis in that application. But they're also a little better as daily driver skis. Yeah. So you get 72 millimeter waist width here, classic Stockli build, sandwich construction, wood core, 2 sheets of metal. What's really cool about what they do in this ski, and similar to some other things that we'll talk about, and some things that we've talked about in other comparisons and other width ranges, they have basically a slit cut in the tips and tails of the metal. So, you know, we talk about like controlling the amount of torsional stiffness in the ski. This is one where they're actually taking out some torsional stiffness from the tips and tails to give it more turn entry compliance.
Yeah.
and a little bit more user friendliness, a smoother feel.
I would say it's more accessible. It makes it just more accessible to be able to,
Exactly.
you know, get that ski to do what you want it to do.
Exactly. So less fatiguing, you know, if you're
Yeah.
looking for a carving ski to use all day a lot,
Yeah.
this is a really, really good choice. Not to say that the first 4 skis we looked at wouldn't work, but they're less forgiving, more jarring, more tiring.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the smoothest skis on the wall. It's just a pleasure to ski. It's very, very rewarding. Tons of edge grip, but just, yeah, the way it enters a turn is just exceptionally smooth. So a lot of fun, and this is the first Solomon binding system that we've seen. So this is the SRT Speed plate with an SRT 12 binding. Pretty darn similar overall to that recoil plate and the XL binding that we saw. You know, not like not a worm screw and not a race plate, but still a really good binding system.
And any of these that have that additional lifter on them is going to give you more leverage over the edge of the turn, and you know that's a pretty common theme. Most of these skis, you know, the stand height's pretty high.
Yep. And still, you know, we talked about user friendliness and a little bit of forgiveness, but still a pretty darn stiff flexing ski. And it's a Stockli.
Yeah.
Got that Stockli feel.
Next up, we got a Nordica Spitfire. This is RB72, so sticking with our theme of 72.
Yep.
And a little bit wider here.
And it's just kind of fun to look at the visuals of the differences between the GSR Elite.
Yep. And it's definitely still in that race build category here. And this is no slouch of a ski, just a little bit wider, and you know, same just overall build to it. We are looking at 18 meters and 174. So again, just hitting that right down the middle of nice, easy turn radius, and these
Yeah, and this
things
one's
were out.
18.5. I think you said 16.5.
Oh, I'm
which
sorry.
set off an alarm in my head.
My eyes are going
So
cross-eyed with
it's
these.
very similar turn radius between the two.
Same plate here. We're down to the XL12 at this point, so not quite that upper end of the din range, but still very much more than most people need. That's for sure.
Yep. Yeah, I feel perfectly comfortable on those 12 din XL bindings.
Yep, and just the same overall feeling, just in a little bit wider of a ski. So that's what they're doing, is they're just kind of bumping up the width, making it less precise in terms of that hockey skate blade, but offering a little bit more of a balanced platform to stand on. So that's one of the things that I always talk about and write about, is like, well, it's got a nice platform. It's not super twitchy, or it's not, again, relatively not as twitchy as the more, the narrower race-oriented skis.
Right, still pretty twitchy.
Yeah. But again, just kind of moving up in the line from Nordica here, and that's where we are with that one. Just a little bit more accessible.
Yep. Yeah, one of our owners actually walked in to the studio before we started filming, and we were kind of chatting about these skis, and he was like, yeah, the ones on the left are the ones that just destroy you.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, kind of. Like if you catch an edge on one of these first 4 skis, you're just going for a ride, and it's not going to be very much fun.
Yeah.
The same kind of holds true with these skis that we're moving into, but yeah, there's just like a touch more forgiveness.
Yeah.
They're not gonna totally beat you up if you make a mistake. Is
Right.
kind of the way that I think about it.
Yeah. You can kind of ride them flat.
Yeah, a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And I think especially, we have the wider version of the ski on the far end there, and when we get there, then it's more pronounced. That difference is more noticeable. But I think this is a great ski. I think the GSR Elite is a lot of fun too, but I think it's fair to say that more skiers would like this. Yeah. It's got a wider application. There's a little bit more versatility to it, and it's just a touch easier to ski, and just still like limitless performance.
Right.
Like every time we say one of these skis is more forgiving or a little bit easier to ski, it's still like the performance ceiling is... It doesn't exist.
Right.
It's just like you can ski as hard and as fast as you want to, and the ski is going to respond accordingly. Next ski, I like this thing a lot, and it's starting to this is the first ski that we've looked at that doesn't just use like traditional sandwich construction, vertical sidewalls, and full sheets of metal.
Right.
So that's pretty interesting. This is the K2 Disruption MTI. We've actually talked a lot about this ski over the last like 8 to 10 months. It was an early release last season, and we got to see some prototype versions of it over a year ago out in Seattle and Mount Hood. This is kind of K2's, not their first, but I would say like one of their biggest commitments into entering this category.
Mm-hmm.
This is really their take on a super high-end carving ski, and they do it a little bit differently. So we get Titanal I-beam construction in this ski. So it's still a wood core. It is built in sandwich construction. We get a little bit of a step-down sidewall in the tips and tails, which is why I said it differed a little bit. But basically the metal is full width underfoot, and then it tapers into the middle of the ski. So through the forebody and through the tail of the ski as well, it's just located in the middle of the ski. So you still get all the vibration damping, all the longitudinal benefits of metal, but by not putting it along the edges, and this is something that K2 is doing with a lot of their skis. We talked about it in the Mindbenders and stuff like that. They're kind of doing that same thing, like controlling the amount of torsional stiffness in the ski, or the amount of willingness to make different turn shapes and styles. So I think it's fair to say, with maybe the Stockli being the only one that might give this a run for its money, I think of the skis we've talked about so far, this has the easiest edge release. And I mentioned that I use one of these skis personally as a beer league ski. This is it. And part of the reason why I chose this ski is because of that slightly easier edge release and its willingness to make different turns. Because for me, not having I don't have like a super strong race background. I've spent my fair share of time in gates.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like an NCAA Division I racer or anything like that. So I really like this because if I make a mistake or if I'm late on one turn, it has enough compliance for skier input that I can make it do what I need it to do to get back on my line. But still, like crazy high performance sealing.
Yep.
Like Warner Nickerson helped design these skis, who we interviewed about 3 weeks ago. If he can ski them and he trusts them, then like literally anyone can ski them, and anyone should be able to trust them. And pretty similar turn radius to what we've seen so far. This is, I believe I have the 175 in my hand, which happens to be the length that I own, and it's an 18.2 meter turn radius. So still right there in that like kind of consumer giant slalom range.
But it's nice that they're not, that's the first one we've seen that's not their race ski dumbed down. It's a totally different build.
Exactly.
So that's, that's what's setting that one apart.
Yeah, and I think that's an important distinction here is these skis were built from the ground up instead of taking a FIS race ski and changing its shape.
Yeah. And speaking of changing a FIS ski's shape, this is the Deacon 74, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and like we did with Nordica, there's a lot of similarities between these skis.
And I'll just pull out the 76. We'll get to that in a minute more so, but they're just changing the way that these skis behave just a little bit. So with the 74, again, we're creeping up in the waist width here. This is the 173, and this thing generates a 16 meter turn radius, and I am reading that 16 meter right. A little bit wider in the tips and tails, and so hence the shorter turn radius.
Yep.
And we'll see a similar change between the 74 and the 76 as we will with these Rossignol's, the Hero Elites, and the Hero Elite Plus. So they're taking the same ski and just changing the turn radius by making the shovel and the tail wider and altering the waist width a little bit. So still that race style construction with the full sandwich, two sheets of metal.
Still get that Volkl or marker system, same system.
The R motion system there with the Uvo. So this is, a shorter radius GS ski, almost creeping in on that slalom range. not quite there, but for that skier who's looking for that shorter turn radius. And we're starting to introduce like just a little bit of tip rocker here into this ski. When we get to the 76, it becomes a little bit more pronounced. So making the entry to the turn a little bit easier, again, more forgiving, but not as twitchy or catchy. As you increase the tip width, that rocker does come into play, because the wider the tip, it's, you know, more twitchy when you start to put that thing on edge. So,
Yep.
You know, we start to see a little bit of the changes here, starting with this ski. And just, you know, another option there from Volkl for those skiers who want to make a shorter turn radius but still want that GS build.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about this ski and how Volkl classifies it is I'm pretty sure it's in their all-mountain collection.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure if you go in their catalog, I was on their website before we started filming, and like they differentiate between these and the Deacons in the way that they kind of classify them.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're starting to get into more versatile skis that for some skiers could be all mountain skis.
Yeah, definitely.
If you spend most of your time on groomers and like that's the side of skiing that you like and that you value the most, you can still take this, you know, we're starting to get into the skis that you can take off trail a little bit.
Yeah.
And they're not going to like destroy you like Josh said.
Even just
so next ski that we're going to talk about is the Rossignol Hero Elite MT or multi-turn. And as we've done with some of the other skis so far, I think it's really cool to look at the differences between this, a true race ski, and this, which is more of a sporty carving ski.
Yep.
But pretty much all the same technology carries over from this into this ski, so we still get, you know, horizontally laminated metal in this ski, as well as line control technology. The difference being a much shorter turn radius, and this ski is designed to specifically be able to make different shape turns or different size radius carving turns. So this 175 centimeter length has a 15 meter turn radius. That's kind of, if you were to take it from tip to tail and average it, that's what it comes out to.
Yeah.
But it is designed to be able to make different size turns, which is really fun. You know, if you watch ski racing, or like specifically I'm thinking about Ted Ligety and the way that he can bend a ski into shorter radius turns, that's really hard to do. But it feels really fun when you can do that and kind of like, you know, make some bigger turns and then shorten it up really quick, all of them being kind of like railroad track carves. This ski lets you do that more easily than, you know, that race ski that we started talking about, which I think is really, really cool. And then you still get, as we've said, you get limitless performance in a ski like this. Yeah. But it is one of the smaller turn radii that we've looked at so far at that 15 meter. So something to think about as you're choosing one of these skis. Are you more of a bigger long turn guy, or do you want a ski that feels like it comes across the fall line more easily? That's kind of how I always think about it. A shorter radius ski is going to feel like you can get it to, you know, you're going to get lateral acceleration more easily out of a shorter radius ski. And that's like a very rewarding feel. So you kind of have to like think about whether you want more of that responsiveness and a little bit shorter of a turn, or a longer turn radius that's going to allow you to just like go down the fall line more than come across it. Right.
So finishing the turn, you know, this is like kind of where we're getting into. These skis are easier to complete your turn.
Right.
And you'll feel that energy, like you said, coming across the fall line.
Yep. Pretty cool binding system here. This is basically like a Look SPX. I think it's an SPX 12. Pretty simple binding plate, but just the way that Look and Rossignol build these systems, you get a lot of rise. Yeah. Even though there's not like, the plate itself doesn't rise as much as some of the plate that we've looked at so far, but the way that the binding sits on that plate, gives you a ton of leverage in this system.
Yeah, so first one we're seeing without a real structural plate underfoot.
Yeah.
And that makes it a more flexible overall ski. It just doesn't have that kind of, you know, bar across the middle.
Right.
much like what we're going to see from this Atomic here. So this is the Atomic Redster X9 WB, and kind of a similar ski to their G9.
And I wanted to include that
Yeah.
that Redster G9. We were like already sold out of them.
Right. I mean, it's, Atomic's, definitely got that reputation, and hence the fast movement of these skis.
Kayla Schifrin.
Yep, that's all you need. And part of the reason why is this servo tech. So they are using, and I guess it's like an external line control technology here.
Yeah.
So, at the front here, drilled into the core of the ski, and then it hooks into the binding system plate there, and does what it says. It's taking that vibration, especially in the counterflexing, and making this whole thing stiffer without stiffening the whole core of the ski. So that makes it a little bit more forgiving. But you see this technology on all of their race stuff here.
Yep.
This is a 176. It is 75 underfoot and a 14.2 meter turn radius.
Yeah, shortest turn radius we've seen so far.
Yep. So again, we're moving, by bulking out the tips and the tails, making that ski more carvy, more turny. Again, going to complete the turn similar to that Rossignol. Wants to come across the hill. Not much of a flat, straight line ski like we saw on the left side there. Definitely more of that side to side, more lateral movement ski. This Atomic race binding plate is another little difference here.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Pretty cool. The brake is actually like integrated into the plate, and there's this metal bar that runs, from the toe through to the heel. So we're seeing, that type of, suspension system underfoot as well, just to bolster, what they got going on with the rest of the ski. Also another layer of metal underfoot here. So for that, prime edge grip there. So, pretty cool, getting into that, again, more all mountain style of ski, still with that race heritage though, and just, supreme edge grip and control all over the place.
Yeah, and I think, it's still a super high-end ski, very precise, very powerful still. But I think that's the most approachable ski so far.
Yeah.
With probably the MT being up there just because of this shorter turn radius, and then the Disruption MTI because of the build. But yeah, that Redster X9, and we've had it in multiple ski tests now, and we've had some skiers on it that are more in the intermediate ability level, and they don't get like completely beat up.
Right.
Whereas we've had some intermediate skiers on the Redster G9, and it's like a totally different experience.
Yep.
They're like, I can't even ski this.
Yeah.
But that X9 wide body, it's more approachable and good ski to kind of transition into this category, so to speak.
Yeah.
This is the Deacon 76. Forgive us if we go through this one pretty quickly, but we've basically already talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
So there aren't a lot of differences between the 74 and the 76. We're really just going back to that all-mountain conversation. This is starting to feel more like an all-mountain ski. It's a precise, powerful all-mountain ski, but it does, 76 used to be pretty wide. So, this is something where I think if you're an accomplished skier, if you're up there in the advanced expert ability level range, you likely won't have any trouble taking this off trail. It's certainly not its like fun or its focus or its like fundamental goal. But it can do it, and then you still get the race technology, precision, endless edge grip. This thing's an 18.3 meter turn radius, so heck, I mean, I would still use this ski in a beer league race. I think it would do just fine. I've seen people at Stowe in our ski bum race league on this ski specifically, and what's nice about it is you can do that, and then you could, keeping with the Stowe analogy, you could take it to the other side of the road, take it over to Mansfield side, and go ski like lift line and stuff on it, and it's really fun for that too.
And this is our first one with tip and tail rocker.
Yeah.
So, it'll still hold that turn. You feel it more underfoot. A little bit easier to release the turn and get into the next one. I noticed it just putting it on the car rack that the tail rocker was there. You could see it when the skis were sandwiched together. So
Yeah.
Definitely lending to that more all mountain feel and more true to that Deacon line, I would say. And next up, we got a Blizzard Competition 76. This is still in the Firebird line. So in the 76s, they have this Comp 76 and then the HRC. There's two main differences between the HRC and this. This one lacks the carbon spine.
Carbon armor. It lacks carbon armor.
It lacks carbon armor. It has carbon spine, still wood core, 2 metal edges, less carbon than the HRC. It also gets knocked down to the TPX binding system as opposed to the Excel.
You save like a couple $100.
Yeah.
I think.
And there's not a ton of reason unless you're just that super high-end skier and you're like, well, I want the top line and the best binding and more carbon.
Yeah.
That's not to say that this is a slouch in any way, shape, or form.
No, there's still 2 sheets of metal in it.
Right. And still with that kind of more back to the GS construction, just with a little bit less carbon. But yeah, I mean, just no rocker in this one. This is fully cambered, tons of energy, tons of pop, and just really smooth ski. Yeah,
I always think about Harrison when these skis come up. Our shipping manager Harrison has a pair of these. He has much more of like a free ride, freestyle-y background. He worked for J Skis for a while. So if you're familiar with J Skis, you can just kind of take the attitude of their company and apply that to Harrison, and you'd be pretty accurate. He wanted a more precise, more powerful on-trail ski, and we basically settled, we were kind of going back and forth on things, and we settled on this, and I know he's really, really happy with it. It's got like all the performance that he could ask for, but it's not too demanding.
No, and he's a great skier, and he doesn't need the HRC. So it was a good, good compromise for sure.
Right, and it's a good testament. It's a testament to how good that ski still is.
Right, exactly.
And I've said this many times before. Like, I think a lot of skiers are fairly competitive, especially with themselves.
Yeah.
It's very easy and it's very common to want the best, whatever the top of the line ski is. I think it's natural for skiers to gravitate towards that. But yeah, that Competition 76 is awesome.
Right.
And I actually really like the black graphic too. I've heard some mixed opinions on it as opposed to like the super flashy orange. But I like that.
I think this is an improvement over previous year.
I like that. I like that graphic quite a bit. Next up is the Fischer RC One 78 GT. This ski is quite a bit different than really anything else we've talked about so far. So with the Deacons, we started talking about all-mountain performance. This is, in my opinion, this has the most versatile performance of anything on this wall. The tip shapes are a little bit different. It's got more of a tapered shape. The construction's quite a bit different. It's still a pretty burly ski. There's still I think it's 0.5 millimeter titanal in this ski as opposed to the 86 gets 0.7. But that's still pretty thick. That's like the same thickness metal that you see in like a Enforcer or something from Nordica. So you still get, it's still a pretty stiff flexing ski. It's still got all the vibration damping that you would want. It's got plenty of edge grip. They take some weight out of the tips and tails in these things by not using the metal all the way up there. So the swing weight's a little bit lighter. And I think that really ups the forgiveness.
Yeah.
I think it's safe and fair to say, well, I think I said it about the Redster too. I don't know. I'd feel okay putting an intermediate skier on this. I would not feel comfortable recommending any of these skis to an intermediate.
Yeah.
I would feel worried. And I would feel like I did a disservice to that skier.
Sure.
That Redster X9 would work, and this works really, really well. If you're an intermediate skier that values firm snow performance and you want a really good carving ski, this is a really, really good choice. And then on the, kind of not the opposite end of the spectrum, but Another way to look at it is if you're an advanced expert level skier and you want quick edge-to-edge feel, but you don't want to be like trapped into carving turns, this will do more.
Yeah, you can make all sorts of different turns on that thing.
Right. I would say this is far and away the best mogul ski on this wall. If you're looking for a narrow ski that's also fun in moguls, this is a really, really good choice. And I'm pretty impressed in general with how Fischer is building these RC One skis. There's a lot to like about them.
Yep. Yeah, and they from 78 all the way up to 86. There's a lot of different variations. Even with that same style of construction.
Yeah, and like interestingly, as we've gone wider in this comparison, they're getting more versatile and like maybe a little bit more approachable. It's like the opposite in the RC One collection. The 86 is a lot of ski. That's a demanding, powerful ski, and the 78's a little bit more approachable.
Yeah. And then down to the RS10 binding on this one.
Yep.
No cohesive plate, more tip and tail to increase that flex of the ski overall. So just check your DIN charts and make sure you're gonna fit into that one there.
Yep.
Next up, we got a head E rally. So we've had the I rally up until 2021. They're moving to the E rally here. I wish we had the catalog here because I like to read what they say the E is. So this energy management conservation system, does it say what it is? Energy management circuit. So they used to have the KERS technology, which is, taking those vibrations, and what they're claiming is that it's filtering the unwanted vibrations out and harnessing the good ones and putting them back into the ski for positive rebound and energy.
Yeah, they're like playing around with potential and kinetic energy, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure the engineers have a field day designing these skis.
Sure, and we always try to bring up that old K2 ski that lit up. And so, hopefully things have advanced since then, but these Supershapes have been, really popular for a number of years. And again, we're getting into that carving ski versus something that's more race oriented. Really short. So 14 meters at 170 and 78 millimeters underfoot. So same waist width as this Fischer here, but kind of a different animal. More of that tip to tail carving presence. Really minimal taper. I mean, 0 in the tail. So it's going to hold on, and same thing with the tip. We're looking at that pure tip to tail, pure cambered ski, short turn radius, and just a ton of fun.
Yeah, super energetic, which feels gimmicky to say because it's got that energy management system. But they are incredibly responsive, and they really do feel like they have a lot of snap and energy out of a turn.
And we get a lot of comments on these skis, and a lot of people stand by their claims that this is, it is an all-mountain ski, any conditions. And they stand by that.
And I think a lot of people have landed on the rally in that Supershape line. I think it's one of the more versatile waist widths. You still get really quick edge-to-edge feel, but it's wide enough for softer snow and stuff like that. Before the rally came out, I always talk to a lot of skiers that chose the Titan, which is a little bit wider than the rally, but I feel like the rally has kind of emerged as the most popular. And if that sounds good to you, if everything we said about the Supershape E rally sounds good, go check out the entire line of Supershape skis, because you may be like, oh hey, the E Speed actually sounds more like what I want. And you still get all the cool technology and construction benefits. So next up is the Rossignol Hero Elite Plus. Basically, what we're getting here is just the same conversation. We could put all 3 skis up here if we wanted to, and since I'm the one in the video and want to, I'm going to do it. Basically, we're getting, the same thing that we were talking about in this ski in terms of construction and intended purpose is trickling down to this ski. It's just much wider, which makes it much more versatile. This is 78 underfoot. This 174 centimeter length has a 14 meter turn radius. So very
similar to the...
Exactly, and pretty similar to this too. But that 78 millimeter waist width really is going to help in softer snow. So, you know, this is where I start to think about, similar to that E-Rally, if you prefer carving, if that's your favorite type of skiing and you want to do that all day long, no matter what the conditions are, maybe not on like a deep powder day or whatever, but these skis, I think about late day conditions. These skis handle later day conditions better than some of these narrower skis when things start to get choppy and tracked out and a little softer. You know, maybe there's like a little buildup of soft snow on the sides of the trails and stuff. Some of these skis can get bogged down. You'll boot out a little easier. This, you can still get a big high edge angle and not worry about stuff like that. And then you still get all the performance benefits. This same line control technology. You know, this thing stays glued to the snow surface. I always think about Ryan Daniel. I can't remember whether it was this ski or this ski. I'll probably put the footage in this video. But Ryan has like a really strong race background, and I just chased him with a camera, just ripping turns on these skis, and it was really, really impressive. So I'm a pretty big fan of what Rossignol has done with these skis. And then we get the same look binding system, which, you know, I think there are a lot of fans of this binding system. What's cool about this is you could put a Pivot 18 on here, but, you know, you're getting a similar style binding in these, and a little bit lighter too, which is nice to have. Really cool skis.
Kind of talking about that platform, you know, giving you better balance to stand on versus these narrower skis.
Yeah, and like a bigger sweet spot too, I think.
Hey, our first flat ski. This is a Stockli Laser AX. You know, similar to the SC, we're getting that GS style build. You know, getting wider, a little bit more approachable. But you know, anyone who's ever skied this thing pretty much swears up and down by it. You know, carving, off-piste, all mountain, moguls, trees, and that, you know, you're getting a lot of that from that flatter ski, but you're still getting that just unbeatable edge grip, you know, on the harder snow. So this thing's 78 underfoot as well, similar to these other ones, and we're looking at a, what does it say here, 15.9 meter turn radius in the 175. This has that split metal as well, just like the SC, sorry. So allowing for more compliance in the entry phase of the turn. But just a ripping ski all around, and you know, we get a lot of questions of AX versus AR. The AR being the wider version.
The AR goes up to 83
or 84. And you know, has less of that GS build to it, whereas this still has that same type of construction that the SC has. But you know, that Swiss-made Stockli precision quality, you know, all of those superlatives run right through this AX, and a lot of people will swear by this ski for any conditions. And one of the softer flexing skis we've seen so far. But you know, Stockli does that so you can really access the whole side cut. So
it gives them more of a natural flex pattern, I think, which is really nice. And I think that those two Stocklis are probably the two smoothest skis on this wall. You know, I think that slit in the metal helps, and then just their build in general and the way that they make skis, it just results in a really, really smooth feel.
See some of these at Stowe, and a lot of the skiers on them are very good skiers. And they make it look good. You know, there's no doubt about that.
This is the Volkl Deacon 79. This is an interesting ski. This one kind of jumped out to Bob when he first saw the wall of skis that I put together. This is kind of interesting because the construction of this ski is kind of trickling over from the old RTM collection. So it's using 3D ridge. So there's basically a raised portion in the middle of the ski, which, you know, it's like fairly similar to what we were talking about in the Disruption. Different application, and the feel is different. But by putting that denser, more material in the middle of the ski, you're getting the longitudinal benefits. I just slipped the binding right off the ski. There is a screw that holds that on if you're concerned. But you get a little bit more compliance in the flex pattern in this ski, and you also get more edge-to-edge compliance because there's, it's that centered portion of the material, not along the edges. So another one that's really good for an intermediate level skier. What do we got here for turn radius? 17.1 in the 177 centimeter length. So that's a nice versatile turn radius. This ski, it is built as a carving ski, but it's one of those skis that's not going to feel like it's locking you into a turn like some others.
Right. But really good energy for this ski, and we were talking about the more intermediate style. Here, leave that off for a second. I want to get into that. More accessible for an intermediate. I've actually been getting quite a bit of comments on this ski lately, and my general response is surprising energy.
Yeah.
You just get a lot of kickback out of it. And with that binding being off, it's actually a good opportunity to show how Volkl builds their systems into the ski. So it's not it's not a plate that's screwed on. It's actually built into the ski,
which is why I was able to slide it right off the ski.
But it's a good opportunity to show that that's kind of the way that these things go. A lot of these, just the toe and heel are separate pieces that go that slide onto a pre-mounted track, whereas this Volkl has that built into the ski, so you actually get really good energy transfer from the binding, through the plate into the ski. It's more connected.
Yeah, exactly. And there's the way that the power transfers from your foot to the ski, it goes more directly to the edge because there's essentially wings here that connect the binding to the far edge of the ski instead of drilled in the middle.
Yeah.
So pretty cool system.
Yeah, they've had that. They're, like you said, their RTM line. And up until this year, that's been their way of doing it. So the low ride has taken over the wide ride.
Yeah. In
their Deacon line specifically.
Last ski.
Yeah, last ski, the Nordica Dobermann RB80. So this is in their Spitfire collection, and we had some fun on this last year, and love talking about this ski as a wide race ski with an all mountain capability, still full camber, still 2 sheets of metal, still that dense wood core, but that wider shape and the ability for this ski to have more versatility to it than most other things on this wall, but still within that expert race carver category.
Yeah, definitely.
So only our second flat ski of the wall. This does come with a system available.
Yeah, you can get the same.
Yeah.
You can buy it like that.
Right. And so same ski basically, just a little bit different of a width, and just more versatility built into this 80. We actually skied it last year on maybe 4 or 5 inch snow day. And we were kind of disappointed that we didn't have our more fun skis for that day, but you couldn't feel the stuff under your foot, which was really cool. It was just very stable and silent and cut through the stuff.
Yeah.
So definitely not floating, but absolutely busting right through it. So just a ton of fun on that.
Yeah, and my favorite thing about it is, you get this performance, but you can, if you want a lower center of gravity, you can get a lower center of gravity. I personally really want to get a pair of these and put a pivot on them. You'll be really low to the ski.
Yeah.
It'll give it a more natural flex underfoot with no plate. And I just think it's really cool. I think it rips as a carving ski, and then if you've got the ability and the willingness, it can be like a fun mogul ski and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, still that same stiffness that you're getting from these other skis. I mean, this thing is all there.
Yeah. It's almost like we're going backwards from the last few or some of the skis that we've talked about. This is going back to 2 sheets of metal, sandwich construction, vertical sidewalls, powerful construction.
But really cool of them to come out with that last year, and I just think that style is going to get more and more traction. Yeah,
and a lot of credit to the newly named Nordica National Sales Manager, Mike Martini, because I believe he was the one that originally said, hey guys, we should make this as a flat ski, not just as a system. We talked about that in a Nordica meeting like 2 years ago, and then the following year we saw it as a flat ski.
Yeah.
So pretty cool, and thanks, Mike Martini.
Yep.
That's it, right?
That's it. 18
Cool.
skis.
So that's it. 18 frontside skis. As we mentioned to start this video, these are more focused on singular performance than the other comparisons that we've done so far. But I hope you enjoyed kind of going through and analyzing the nitty-gritty details between them. Next up, we're going to go back a little wider into mid-80 all-mountain skis, which Bob and I are both really excited about.
Yep.
It's got some skis that we've never included in a comparison before, and there's a lot of variety in there, from like even within Volkl's line, for example, we're going to have a Canjo 84, and then we're also going to have a Deacon 84, and kind of talk about the differences between those two skis and the multiple different applications. So,
but that we could basically start our next video with this ski.
Yep.
So we would put this on the other side of the wall and
keep
work
going,
that way again.
keep going
So
wider. And we might even do that.
all right.
Who knows? We'll see how it
Just
works
a
out.
continuous train of skis.
Exactly.
rolling through.